class. I would like to be very, very grateful to the Nada Yoga School that has created this event, the free yoga and music festival. There's some opportunities in life, when you can have things for free and to share knowledge freely. That is the most beautiful gift you can offer. If there's something I have learned and I would like to share, I would like to be able to share it with complete integrity, without the trappings of commercialization. So in full gratitude that this event has been free. Secondly, I'm very grateful to all the teachers that have helped me along this journey to understand what is yoga. And today I would like to try to explain what is yoga, why, where does it come from? We are performing asanas, we are performing exercise. We think, yes, this is yoga, which is wonderful because some of us arrive with this. We begin with this process. Before I begin this, again, there's a few people who have joined in a few minutes late. I request if we may all put on our cameras, as this is an informal talk and not a class. Thank you. So, before we begin, just a moment of silence, a quiet moment, a deep breath. You may or may not shut your eyes if you need to. And feel stillness, quiet. Whatever happens on the citta, on that substratum of your mind, this is what we should arrive at, in theory, with today's class. You may gently open your eyes, if you have closed them, and come back. This moment of yoga is what has to be continued throughout our everyday life. When we begin, we'll say yoga. What is my understanding of yoga? The cliche term, when you study a textbook and you get a textbook you open, yoga is union. Nice. Union of what? The mind, the body, and yes, the spirit. It's that trinity. We always try to hop this. That's a cliched answer. But when we look at yoga, when we define it, the word yoga, if you study Sanskrit, also comes along, very interestingly, yoga is used in the term of potential, potentiality. That's interesting. What potential and what potentiality? Now, because we say yoga belongs to India or yoga belongs to an Indian tradition. Largely, yes, but yoga is an experience. It's not just theory. It's not just study. This experience belongs to all of humanity. And all of humanity, each of us is striving to arrive at our potential. The potential of our own self, the potential of our own truth. And every human, we are in this endeavor. Believe me, at this point, with the COVID, we had the lockdowns. Alone with who? Me, myself. What an opportunity. What an opportunity to understand who am I. This is the purpose of yoga. Why am I? What am I? Yoga. So this potential, every soul, each human being, each human soul that is born wants to experience this completion, this complete potential. And what is this complete potential? India says consciousness, divine consciousness. You have the theories that are given in this. We'll come to the Sankhya. Today, I always refer to the Sankhya first. And today's talk is part of a two-series talk. The first talk on Sankhya might be a little bit difficult. It'll be the foundation stone. And the second one, which will happen on the 12th, will be an understanding of how to apply this knowledge. Oh, I know the structure, I know the chart, I know the skeleton, but how do I use it in everyday life? There's no point, we say yoga is a philosophy probably. But more than a philosophy, in the tradition word, the word is darshana. A darshana is an experience. So these darshanas were had by rishis, great sages. These great sages, when we say they had these revelations, and then they wrote these philosophies. So there's no point of having a philosophy if you do not know how to use it. Why intellectualize something? There's no point in the intellectual game. We have to use this in our everyday life. Coming back to yoga, where did it come from? What is it we came through? Okay, it is a union, it has the potentiality, we see everything as consciousness. But where does this consciousness come from? We will say yoga belongs to India, coming back to that point. Not really so, because if we look at it, the Vedic system in India states very clearly, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family. Everybody, we had all the continents as one, we don't forget that. All the continents were conjoined. The ancients knew this. They knew this experience. The shamans in the Amazon retain it. The Druids, in Europe. You had the ancients, the traditional people. Every naturalist knows that this is the tune of nature. Everybody knows this knowledge. Luckily, India consolidated, preserved this knowledge, and created, in India, our ways in India for knowledge, I come from a reference point here, and that is why I will use Sankhya. So this reference point is from the Vedas. All knowledge in this subcontinent comes from the Vedas. The Veda word comes from one root, vid, to know. That knowing. What do they do? Of course, we had a point where the Vedas had to be broken up into 4 parts and assorted. Ayurveda, for your information, is known as the Panchama Veda, the 5th Veda. The system of yoga, the philosophies, these are called the darshanas. There are 6 heterodox Indian philosophies. The first are Nyaya and Vaisheshika. They go in twins. Right? The second is Sankhya and Yoga. Again, they are twin philosophies. Now, do you see why the stress on Sankhya? Sankhya gives you the backbone, the skeleton on which yoga is muscled out. It's fleshed out upon the system. After that, you have the next twin philosophies, the Uttarva and the Purva Mimamsas, which constitute Vedanta. So when you look at this entire structure, yoga builds up on the skeleton of Sankhya, which is just a structure. It is a path to go on to Vedanta. So yoga is the one that is hubbing it. Now, when you say yoga and Sankhya are twins, and Ayurveda acts as a sister science to this. So Ayurveda takes care of the physical part. Both yoga and Ayurveda work on the background of Sankhya. So for this, we will have to take some effort, a little effort, on understanding Sankhya. What is Sankhya? So in the darshanas, we have sages that are attributed to giving us these darshanas. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Krishna says, amongst the philosophies, amongst the darshanas, I am Sankhya. Amongst the sages, I am Kapila. So when this is given such strong backing, We have to understand it. There's no other way. It can get a little bit difficult, but it's not that bad because every time, once you've understood this, it becomes very beautiful. Everything will come back into this one philosophy. I shall open up the chart for you for Samkhya. Okay. Till then, I'll explain to you. This is the chart of Samkhya. Basically, the word Samkhya, what does it mean? Sa is good, clear, correct, right. Kya is from the word khyati, understanding, the correct understanding. There is another meaning to this, Samkhya. It's taken with a small s, numerology, the numbers, the science, the theory of numbers. These numbers, if you look at these numbers here, they're 25. It talks of the 25 elements that give you the theory of creation, the theory of causation, the theory of evolution of the human soul. So Samkhya is used as a background for yoga to be applied as a path to liberation. The purpose of yoga is for the human soul to evolve to its liberation. And that liberation is not separate from your everyday existence. It is not something that we have to make into a goal. We can find that liberation within my cup of morning tea. It is not separate. I am liberated right now when I'm feeling so happy sharing this. Let's come to this chart. Ideally, this chart should begin at the bottom. But for understanding nicely, right? When I said we have eternal consciousness, supreme consciousness. This supreme consciousness is what we begin this chart with. The two evolutes. Purusha does nothing practically, considered an inert principle. We tend to give Purusha at the beginning of understanding a male attribution. In the end, when you understand Vedanta, you come to the point that, oh, it's all one. There's no male, no female. But in the beginning, it works. It helps to make a story. Everything's easier and nicer when it becomes a story, right? So Purusha is that eternal, inert principle of supreme consciousness. And then you have Prakriti. Let's say this is the Yin, the female principle. And this is the active principle of the universe. Prakriti, Prakriti. Kriti, the word comes from Kriya, to do, to act. To act out what? Purusha wants to experience. This consciousness needs to experience life. For that, each soul is manifest from this supreme consciousness into an individual soul. Each of us manifests through Prakriti. Prakriti is also known as the golden cosmic womb. When we do the Surya Namaskars, we have that mantra, Om Hiranya Garbhaya Namaha. The golden cosmic womb, that egg. That is the womb of Prakriti. How does she go about this job? Now, Prakriti is constituted of three principles. Very simple. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. These are her building blocks. Without that, she cannot do anything. Prakriti gives rise to all of manifest matter. Purusha is the effective cause. Prakriti is a manifest cause. She creates everything. Everything we see around us, all this matter, all this material world, comes from Prakriti. Now, the first evolute that Prakriti gives us is Mehet. Mehet is cosmic intellect, intelligence. This cosmic intellect goes on in the individual mind. It's called Buddhi, which is not in this chart, but never mind. Ahamkara is the next evolute from Mehet. Now, what is ahamkara? In English, we tend to use a word ego. But ego as a word is not sufficient. It becomes more arrogant. What is ahamkara? When I'm born as a child, I have a sense of me, identity. I know how to drink milk. I already know I can rub my eyes. This comes when the soul manifests. This is ahamkara. This sense of I-ness. And it's very important to live your everyday life. Now, this ahamkara has its associations. When ahamkara will associate, remember Prakriti's 3 building blocks, it has sattva, rajas, and tamas. What is sattva? Sattva is all that is light, bright, constitutes sattva. Rajas, everything that is active, movement, rajas. Tamas, heavy, stodgy, gross, tamas. Now, all of these 3 blocks are required to create. Why not 2? Why not 1? Why not 4? That's a very good question. You might ask, I could have done 1, but that's too monotonous. 2 will be direct polar opposites. 3 creates the balance of taking from each other. 4 is 1 too much. So these 3 are important. When ahamkara starts to associate with the tamas and a little bit of rajas. To create everything, rajas is very important. If rajas is not moving around, Prakriti does not create. Okay? So most of the tamas will give rise to the gross elements. We know this very well. First is ether, air, fire, water, and last is earth. The gross elements are created with more of tamas. And this same ahamkara with a little more rajas than tamas. This also is under a tamas influence, but a little extra rajas added into it will give you the tanmatas, the subtle elements, sound, touch. This says color, but it is vision, taste, and smell. Now remember, these are all going to be correspondent to each other. All of these in a line over here will correspond with each other. So ether, the subtle element of sound, gives rise to the gross element of ether. The subtle element of touch gives rise to the gross element of air. This part of ahamkara associating with tamas takes care of the objective field in life. Now we move towards the subjective matter. The same ahamkara, the same sense of identity, when it associates with the sattvic sense. Pure sattva is the mind. Again, more sattva, very little rajas, is the organs of sense. The ears, the skin, the eyes, the tongue, the nose. And when there is a lot more rajas, the 5 actions of action organs, the karma enduriyas, because you need rajas, you need activity to create acts. Why is this so important? When you look at this chart, it may look very simple, but the answers to life, the answers to yoga are right here in this very chart. If this all of this is your objective field, and all of this is the subjective field. Everything that is happening in between is life. How does yoga work on this? When we go to the definition of yoga, let's say we have yoga is given to us by Patanjali. For now, let's understand it. All the yoga is encapsulated very well among the Vedas as well, within the Bhagavad Gita as well, within a lot of the scriptures. But with the main points of yoga come from the Bhagavad Gita, and Patanjali did us the favor of collating yoga, creating it into the sutras. So these sutras, when Patanjali begins, the very first sutra, he will say, Atha Yoga Anushasana. This is the discipline of yoga. Why discipline? Here it is, to understand right here within this chart. This is your physical body. This is where we'll say most of Ayurveda will take place. This is your subjective body, where most of yoga will take place. Here is the mind. And then you have ahamkara and maha. So this is where yoga is supposed to act, within this region. The very second, when he says Atha Yoga Anushasana, discipline. Yoga is for a mind that is disciplined. It is a discipline. And the very second aphorism, very second verse, he says, Yogascha Chitta Vritti Niruddha. I'll explain the words. Chitta. What is Chitta? Chitta is the entirety of this mind. This mind, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not very good with this. This part of the mind, if you look at it, just this much, is the monkey mind. I see a cup of tea. I want it. I grab it. It's hot. And I throw it. Right? That is the monkey mind. The human mind. The human mind, tea. Oh, it's hot. I see. Is it ginger tea? I like ginger tea. My sense of identification with that, ahamkara. And then I go further into my higher mind. Do I need that cup of tea? What is it? Is it a want? Is it a need? Is it a desire? So this entirety of the human mind is called the chitta. This chitta helps make us different from the animals. Animals can use only the lower mind. It is humans that have the capability of using the higher mind. Now, in this lower mind, what happens day to day? We collect perceptions from the Gyana Indriyas, and accordingly, we act them out through the Karma Indriyas. How yoga works. Yogascha Chitta Vritti Niruddha. The word Niruddha. Before I come to Vritti, I will come to the word Niruddha. Niruddha is used as liberation, as freedom, as cessation. But that's not what it is. Do you know the same word Niruddha is the same moment that you can achieve, say for example, a sexual orgasm. At that same moment, your mind is in Niruddha. You're not choosing that. You have broken that barrier of the mind. Vritti. Now coming to the word vrittis. Vrittis are the thought patterns upon the mind. These thought patterns are gathered by the sense organs in everyday life. Remember, when you study Vedanta, they tell you very quietly, your entire life is that, like, this is your body, this is the chariot. In this chariot, you have these horses that are driving this chariot. The reins of that chariot are here. And that chariot is being driven, and who is living in that chariot? The self. So your entire life is governed by the structure. This vritti, these thought waves that occur on the mind, where do they come from? How do I stop them? You know, this is what I have to apply this yoga. I can't force myself to sit in meditation, close my eyes and say, I will not think, I will not think. I mean, yoga is everything but violence with yourself. It's loving yourself, being gentle, knowing what works, what does not work. This very system has to be used now. How do I use this Sankhya chart now when it comes to understanding yoga? I have to control my mind. I wouldn't use the word control. The word control is too strong, Discipline, fair. Mothers discipline a child, fair. Initially, I need the discipline. But later, it becomes a routine. No? So now remember, I said Ayurveda is the sister to Sankhya and Yoga. Sankhya and Yoga are like those brothers that she's got, and Ayurveda is the one sisters, sisters bring in that nice, sweetness to the brothers. So Ayurveda, now we finished the definition of yoga. Let's come to the definition of Ayurveda in the same context. So when Ayurveda will talk to you, it's very beautifully put. Ayurveda will say, okay, first, what is Ayurveda? I told you what is yoga. I did not tell you what is Ayurveda. Ayur comes from the word Ayush, life. Right? Interesting. Ayurveda, the art of life or the science of life, the knowledge of life. We need to understand how to live this life. And the very beautiful thing in Ayurveda, they will not tell you that you will live 90 years, you will live 70 years. Too petty, too small to think of. Ayurveda counts your life in the number of breaths that you will take. Even yoga counts this. The number of breaths and how you take those breaths. Prana, that substance from the universe for the soul. When the universal soul infuses this prana, this life force into the organisms, into the human organism especially, we are called prani. And this life force is infused into every living being at the speed of light. Sattva element comes into you, and that is life. Prana, that breath. The same word for prana and breath is the same. In yogic parlance, also largely in Ayurveda parlance. Now, when you define yoga by Ayurveda, Ayurveda comes up with samadoshi, samadosha, all the doshas, all the elements in balance. Where do the doshas come from? Here we are, right? When you look at it, the element of ether and air together give you the dosha of vata. Vata is the thin, airy, skinny, I think too much, thin air, flaky nails. That's a typical vata for you, right? The elements of fire and water give you the dosha of pitta. Pitta is more the fiery, the working, the more under the influence of rajas, given to anger, given to early grey, intelligent, but they forget very easily. Right? Vatas are the creative ones, the ones who can paint and draw and write. Vata. Then the third dosha, kapha. Kapha is stodgy, tiny frames, pink, glowing, very emotional people. They'll cry at the drop of a hat. You don't want to aggravate them. Kapha in every way. But kaphas are very beautifully emotional people. They're very soft. But then you cannot have just one body type. You have 3 body types. Or these 3 body types can constitute and permutate, and you can have 7 body types in all. You can have all 3 body types, all of it. And guess what? A dosha is called. Also in Ayurveda, it is using the same word. When you go for dosha parikshan, if you go to an Ayurveda doctor, you will check your pulse and you will say, what is your prakriti? Prakriti, remember this word right here. When we come back to Sankhya. What is your nature? What is your physical constituent given to you by nature? In the end, we all have to turn and merge into our own nature using these elements. These elements are again constituted from, like ether comes from sattva. Air comes from rajas. Fire comes from sattva plus rajas. Water comes from sattva plus tamas. Earth comes from only tamas. So all of these again come back to the gunas. Prakriti, when you can merge into your own inner gunas, you cross your gunas, you make this crossing into the conscious realm and merge with yourself. It is Prakriti, it is this woman who holds this veil to life. So coming back to it, the definition of Ayurveda, why it's important. Samadosha, Sama Agni, the balanced fire, your digestive fires. Sama Malakriya, even the excretion process is in balance, right? All of this in balance. Now comes the beautiful part. We say, okay, this might mostly constitute with the physical parts. Fair enough. Now, the second part of the shloka, defining health as per Ayurveda. It comes very beautifully. Malakriya. Prasanna Atma. Prasanna is happy. Atma is this Paramatma and Jeev Atma. This entire is the Jeev Atma. All of us here, this entire block that is made up is the individual Atma. And this is the Supreme Atma. So Prasanna Atma, Indriya, even the sense organs must be happy. Prasanna, these sense organs must be happy. Prasanna Atma, Indriya, Manaha, even the mind in happiness. Swasthya, iti, iti. This is the definition of health as per Ayurveda. So even Ayurveda will use Sankhya for its definition. Remember this. How beautiful is this? That it all comes back to this chart. And we are heavily dependent on understanding this to execute it in our everyday lives. Now I know these are the elements, these are the doshas, this is how it is, and according to seasons, according to days, that I will cover in the next lecture. Now I will come back a little bit to the yoga. Yoga, when Patanjali goes into it, he breaks it up nicely. He said, Atha Yoga Doshasanam, Yogascha Chitta Vritti Niruddha. That this is the mind level. But then, how do I arrive at changing these vrittis? Where do I start? I don't know. But yes, I know this. I can see this physical body. I cannot see my mind. I'm not yet evolved enough to understand what's going on in my head all the time. Right? So he begins, of course, because we have a social and environmental and a personal conduct also to be taken care of before we are eligible for yoga. This being India, it has to be slightly conduct thing. We say there's a social code of conduct, which are called the yamas. The yamas start with ahimsa, just non-violence. It does not mean only action. It means even mind. In every possible way, ahimsa. Asteya, non-covetousness. Aparigraha, non-hoarding. Brahmachari. And, see, my pitta mind forgot the thing. Satya. Satya, the truth. To be living in the truth. Right? So these are the 5 yamas. These are social conducts. Then you have the personal conducts, ethical, niyamas. My niyama, my ethical conduct, my personal code of conduct, right? Shaucha, cleanliness. Santosha, contentment. Tapaha, sometimes I will have some austerity. I drink too much of chai, maybe I should cut down on it. Okay, fine, on a Monday, I will not drink chai. My austerity, No. So, tapaha, swadhyaya, swa, me, adhyaya, study of myself. I go to bed, oh my God, what did I do today? Blah, blah, blah. Before that, even when I'm doing anything, now here's the keys in this chart. Everything's coming to Swadhyaya. So, How do you break these codes? By studying myself, by being a witness to myself. When am I acting in ignorance? When Prakriti creates this entire veil, she is also known as Maya. She casts this veil of avidya upon your life. You forget that you are that divinity. Each individual soul thinks, I am separate from that supreme consciousness. No, when I do a namaste to you, I see that same supreme consciousness in you, and you see that same supreme consciousness in me. Each soul forgets its divinity. How can we be separate? And that, when we forget this divinity, is when we are in pain. That is where human misery comes from. This sense of identification that holds us so strong, this sense of running around in these indriyas, creating karma after karma, knee-jerk reaction without thinking with the mind. We can't go beyond our own sense of I. And that is what we continue to create these karmas. That avidya holds us back. This is why we require yoga. Now, coming back to imposing the yoga upon this child. The yamas, the niyamas. I was at the fourth niyama of swa-adhyaya. Witness myself, use this higher intellect. This higher intellect helps me witness to what I do, swa-adhyaya. And the last, called Ishwar Pranidhanani. Ishwar Pranidhanani. Sankhya is a dualistic philosophy. It is theistic as well. Some people tend to say it is atheistic. I like to think of it as theistic. But there's one thing that the yoga is called different from Sankhya. They're twin philosophies, remember this. Yoga is called the Sa-Ishvara Sankhya. The Sankhya that gives you the divinity aspect to it. So that last niyama that says Ishwar Pranidhanani is where Sankhya and Yoga now begins the yoga. That is the only main major difference. It imposes the concept of divinity upon Sankhya. This is where yoga differs from Sankhya, in theory. Right? So when we come to it, let's say asana. This is the physical body, right? Asana will act here. The very first one. Why am I twisting? Have we ever stopped and asked ourselves, why am I stretching my spine? Why am I twisting it? Why am I inverting it? Why am I going sideways? The 6 movements of the spine. Why do I need them? Why does asana ask me to do this funny stuff? I might as well go to the gym. Right? So why do we do this? Now the spine. What is the spine? The spine is your animal brain. Where does it lead up to? This brain. What is this brain made up of? Higher up? The higher brain is constituted of the right hemisphere, the left hemisphere. And what do they encompass in the middle? The pineal gland. That little Wi-Fi to the universal consciousness. I have my individual Wi-Fi in there, the pineal gland. You make a transaction right there, you come to it. We forget it. You look at an animal, I have a dog comes, sleeps, wakes up, stretches itself. What is it doing? Opening up the spine. What is it doing? Opening up the spine, yawning. When it yawns, it pushes the air to the brain. The brain is oxygenated. I am ready to live. Asana brings you to this life. Moves the spine, enjoy it. Your life, you will be as supple as your spine. As much as your spine is supple, your body will remain young. You will remain in it. And then bring, what is yoga? Union. What is this union? Between the right and the left. Arriving at this balance in between is yoga. Why do we arrive at this balance? We human beings are so blessed. Every day at sunrise and at sunset, this breath, the nadis, as we call them in yogic parlance. The right nostril takes care of the left hemisphere. The left nostril takes care of the right hemisphere. Right? So this takes care of the sympathetic nervous system. And this takes care of the parasympathetic nervous system. So when you come to these, When you balance both, you're flowing in the central channel. That central channel is where yoga happens. All of yoga happens in this channel. Asana aims to bring you there by moving. Right? You need to move because I'm still hanging around, hopping around. I don't have the patience to sit tight. Do it. Always. You arrive at your reality. You may just hit it right here, even with just asana. And believe me, I know people who get high just doing asana. So, asana. And then we move to the next step. Patanjali gives us that 8-step system. Right? Pranayama. After asana comes pranayama. The step of pranayama is where the breath, remember we talked of the hemispheres. Where do they move with? These brain hemispheres control the mind, the thought processes of the mind. You want to be active, use the right nostril. You want to be down, slow down, think, quietly, use the left nostril. Right? So this mind, you can learn to manipulate that mind according to what you need. And that is the purpose of pranayama. You know, you're what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Have you ever questioned why you do that? This is the reason. So pranayama gives you a little bit of control of the mind. But we need to take that slightly higher. Now, yoga also has something called the kriyas, the shat kriyas, the 6 cleansing processes. I will cover them in the next. But what is the purpose of the shat kriyas? You know, you stick rubber, neti up your nose. You will drink water, vomit it out. What are you doing? We're coming to the 3rd process. You know, we covered yama, niyama, asana, pranayama. These are the outer yogas mostly. Now we come to the 5th process called pratyahara, which is controlling these fellows. All these senses, they all need controlling. How do you do it? Because the mind has to do it. It's the mind's job to control these organs right here. Right? How do you do it? You use the shatkarmas. When you stick something like jal neti, you're putting water into your nostril. Your first instinct is, I want to sneeze. What are you doing? You're using your mind to not sneeze. The involuntary reflexes of the mind going into the autonomous system are controlled. That is the step of pratyahara. When you have achieved this, you are then ready for the next step, which comes with the concentration of the mind. Dharana, the focus. In the last of the shat kriyas, the 6 cleansing processes, the last shat kriya is trataka. I will stare at an object of light unblinkingly for the longest possible time. Oops, what am I doing? Dharana, ekagrata, one-pointed focus. That takes you now, with the dharana comes the inner yoga, the antakarana yoga. So all of this region is the antakarana. This is up to the mind, right? This is the antakarana. Once this is controlled, you can go everywhere. Not the sense organs and not the action. Okay, the antakarana is the mind, ahamkara, my head. This is your antakarana. This is where now you've evolved, human evolution. I am beyond the mind, I'm beyond the control of my indriyas, these organs of sense, right? You move to dhyana, meditation. And what stops you? Even while I'm talking to you right now, I am in my meditation. Right? While you are listening to me, what is stopping you from being in that meditation? I am doing my laundry, I am in my meditation, I'm fully there. I am doing my cleaning, I am doing my work. That sense of dhyana is yoga, is to be in that balance. And then samadhi is the final step. You have arrived when you go past the gunas. Prakriti gives you this little game that she plays is Maya. She gives you all of the material world. Use it, enjoy it, experience it. Purusha wants to experience this. Every soul that is born has a karma to play out. To play out that karma, Prakriti gives you this human body. And you play it out, but then you have to go past that. The cycle of karma is very important in this. Now, in the cycle of karma, I'll make it very brief because We don't have much time also. What happens in the cycle of karma? We come to karma. It is stored from your past births. We Indians believe we have always manifests. That's the system of India. So it is stored from your past births as a samskara. This human body, when you are dead, this is cremated, right? And then the body, the soul takes along with it all the experience that are stored in this karma kosha. This is its little suitcase of karma. I did this, I did that, I thought this, I did this. Right? When it's born again, those same karmas come back with it in that little suitcase as samskaras. And the habits. Last birth, I loved honey. So this birth, I'm always born licking my fingers for some reason. I have that habit. That karma becomes a vasana. That vasana is that desire. Leads to a vritti. Remember the definition of yoga? Yogascha chitta vritti nirvita. Vritti. That is the step. Then the vritti will manifest slightly further as a trishna. It's a thought. I keep thinking of honey dam. Why do I need honey? Why do I want it? Right? And then the next step, I'm going to go and grab that jar of honey. Yes, that is a trishna, an intense desire. And then I lick it and I eat it. I've created that karma again. This is the cycle. If I want to break that cycle at the stage of vritti, when that thought pattern rises, I have used my mind. Remember, I did shat kriyas. I knew how to control it. I knew how to control the involuntary reflexes. I break it at the vritti stage. So yoga gives you the method to cut that, to cut the karma from creating again. You can think of karma, this karma kosha, like a bottle of camphor. You fill the bottle with camphor. It keeps dissipating. The bottle empties. As long as you don't keep stuffing it with more camphor, you can keep emptying it out. You can keep clearing the vritti and marking it off the slate every time. Ticked, done, off my bucket list, off my bucket list. That is how yoga works. And this, in essence, is how Prakriti's veil. She creates this, but she's the mother. This is nature. Remember, the word Prakriti is also used in Ayurveda. It's nature. It is your inner nature. It is what you were born with. Right? You have understood who you are at this level. And then you go past the gunas that she constitutes and merge into yourself. This is the process of breaking the cycle. This is just a theoretical understanding. And yes, whoever has attended this today, I'm very, very grateful. I'm very, very thankful. Because I understand that this is not easy to take at the first grasp. Please, I'm sure this recording will be available. And definitely for those who are not Indian and who are trying to understand this terminology and the system, I'm very grateful because you are attempting to look at yoga beyond just the exercise. Why? You probably have arrived at, there's an experience here. What is that experience? And that curiosity might have brought you here. I am trying. I have not experienced, I'll be honest. Right? But I am trying to share what I have learned. We are all in the same path. We have this lovely prayer. I will try to conclude this with that prayer. But before I come to this conclusion, I'll just go through this in case, I make my pointers, in case I've missed anything. And if anybody has questions, please feel free to ask. I'll give you a few minutes to ask me the questions. The darshanas, yes. I think I have covered most of the points. Yes. Right. Covered. Wow. The Pitta brain remembered most of the points. I'll entertain. You may unmute yourselves. I'll unmute you. Yes. And questions, if anybody has, I'd be happy. We're talking. I'm sorry this is one way up to now, but I'll entertain questions. Please, if anybody has any questions. And if you could put on your videos, please, I'd like to look at everybody.
Thank you, Roopali.
Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
Yes. Could you repeat the question, please? I cannot hear. Anyone has questions? Well, it's not a good sign when people don't have a question.
Actually, for me, Rupali, I thought it was so
And the audio
perfectly
is not
covered that
good,
I
so
have
okay.
absolutely no clue.
I'm a little technologically challenged. Please bear with me. Okay.
I thought it was so excellent and it was so well covered, and each and every point was covered so well. There are absolutely no questions from my end. Thank you so much. It was absolutely brilliant and
Thank you.
very comprehensively covered.
I try. I'm still trying. Thank you so much, though. I appreciate it. Mamta, you have a question? Namaste. I cannot hear. You're on mute, I think, Mamta. I can't hear you. Hold on. No? Why can't I hear you, Mamta? Okay, you may type your question if you wish. Is it possible for her to type it? Yes. Henry, do you have a question? I do appreciate if anybody would put on the video. Right. I can't hear. What was the question? None? And Denise? Ms. Garcia? Right. So I don't see any questions coming, but please feel free to write them down and send them on this whenever it's recorded. And if I can, I'll try and answer them. So we'll conclude this now. We have 5 more minutes with a short prayer, because as I said, we are all in this process. We are all individual souls trying to find ourselves. And believe me, this time of the pandemic, the COVID, is actually a blessing when we have time to see this, to know it, to understand, oh my God, where am I? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Right? This approach to ourselves, which we call our divinity. Vedanta calls it Aham Brahmasmi. I am that universe. There's the 4 Mahavakyas. Another one is Tattvamasi. Why are you looking apart? It's you. It is within you. So don't look elsewhere. Right? So
And that
the prayer is very... Yes.
Roopali, in that
Yes.
point, first of all, thank you. It was all the time so interesting to listen to you, and every time I feel like another drop, that this message come into
It takes
and
time.
get deeper. Yeah. I
Thank
want
you.
to ask you in that message that you tell that just now. So if you can explain the meaning and the source of the mantra Soham.
Soham. Beautiful
Yeah.
question. Thank you. Okay. Soham. Hum so. It's that same vibration when I said the pineal gland. Okay. Now this Purusha, when you again come back to that Sankhya chart, Purusha apparently does nothing. But Purusha only creates a vibrational frequency. It is called the nada. In space, you have nothing. You can also see Samkhya in terms of metaphysics, in terms of quantum physics, in terms of theory of relativity. You can see it in all that manner. Now, here's the thing. With Samkhya, Purusha is the nada, the spandan, that vibration. That vibration is Om, so, so. Between the ha and the ta, this spine, this, we twist ourselves in yoga. We do everything. We're keeping the organs. We're taking away the blood from the appendages, putting it to the organs. The organs are taking it to the spine and to the brain. In the end, we're coming to this and the end. So along this line, from the higher brain to the end of the spine, you have those subtle centers called the chakras. And that line is vibrated upon at the mantra of Soham. Hum so. It is the same prana, the same universal prana. It is the same mantra that exists in every human. Every human has this capability of tapping into it. It is the Om. It is the hum. If you look up Google, they'll have this little study by NASA, the sound of the universe is Om. So hum. So this is it.
Thank you.
Anyone else has a question? Yeah. Yes, Henry.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. I have a question about when you talk about Patanjali and the essence is Chitta Vritti Nirodha, right?
Yeah.
And then he talks about the 8 steps, or maybe I should say the 8 arms, right?
Yes. Yes.
Starting with the yamas, niyamas, and so on. And they're all trying to quiet the mind, right? Quiet the waves of the mind. And then there's the 7th one is the meditation, the dhyan, and then samadhi. So, and I see the philosophy of yoga is often represented by the asana of somebody sitting in meditation pose, right? Yeah. And the ancient yogis are represented sitting in this meditation. So, is meditation, in that sense, is that really the shortcut to finally just reach it, rather than, I mean, if you need to go through yamas and niyamas to quiet your mind, but the idea of just sitting in meditation will just get you there, kind of like possibly.
Now, this is a very good question, Henry. You know why? Because if I have a prarabdha karma, a karma from my past where I've done all the asana and everything in the past, probably, for example, it does not necessarily mean it's a stepwise progression. Remember this. Yoga can be physical, hatha yoga. It can also be bhakti yoga. I could have arrived at it by devotion. I could have arrived at it by jnana, by any endeavor. Yoga means that potential of understanding the union, right? Meditation is the process. If I am at devotion, I am still in meditation. If I'm a karma yogi, when I'm working, I'm in my meditation. Okay. So meditation, yes. And then they show the yogis sitting in that meditative posture because they have dedicated themselves to this practice of yoga. Before Patanjali, even Patanjali only defines the only asana Patanjali gives is the seated. It is afterwards, latter day yogis give the hatha yoga. It is later. As humankind keeps devolving, you need to get more and more gross. So as humankind, we devolve. We've devolved a lot. As for the Indian text, we've come from the golden age to the, we are at the iron age right now, Kali Yuga. So because there's devolution, we have to have it spelled out.
I see, right.
This stuff, then you see a red flag, then you see a green one, and blah, blah, blah. You see? So meditation, now, if I have a good karma from my past, I can sit tight. I'm not thinking, oh my God, the washing machine, did I put it on? Did I not put it on? I left something on the gas. None of that has to happen. My meditation will just arrive if I have it from the past.
Right.
Or I could be doing, I'm cooking and I'm still in my meditation. So yes, but meditation, this is a very important point and a very good question you've asked, because meditation has to be arrived at in everything that you're doing. Yoga is not separate from your everyday existence. It's not something you do on the mat and then go away from it.
Right. So is that when in the Gita, when Arjuna asks that question, I think it's chapter 12, what is the best path? The kind of thing, right? And Krishna gives a clever answer. He's basically saying the meditation is the highest one.
Use it, exactly. And
if you can't do that, then do other things.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Do what it takes, right?
Exactly. Be in yourself. No, the minute you start pushing yourself to something, that's not yoga. That's be yoga. Then you're not in your prakriti. Then you are doing a vikriti.
When you're pushing yourself?
Yes. The minute you push yourself slightly more than necessary, In yoga, you want to make a discipline, you want to achieve something, you try. It's an attempt. But when you push yourself too far, you're going against your own nature. Now, I'm a kapha. I'm kind of lazy. I like to sleep in. I like to eat a little extra, And then you tell me to go and do hatha yoga. It's not my prakriti. That's not my nature. I'm happiest meditating, singing bhajans, being in bhakti. I'm an emotional person.
Mm.
Although I would advocate a little bit of hatha yoga for the kaphas. Right? Any more questions? And before we sign off, then I'll say the prayer. All right. We'll sign off with a short prayer, which means together we are all in this attempt together. And this was the prayer at my university, Kaivalyadhama. So we studied this, and let's see prayer that is taken. We are all in this together, and we are all going along. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamasto Ma Vittisham Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Goodbye, everybody. We can go offline now. Okay. Thank you, everybody, again.